It is June 30th, 2025. We have this crazy story out of Idaho with this gunman ambushing firefighters. We also have this other crazy story about the discovery of a new blood type from Guadalupe and a new UFO spotted over Los Angeles. This is Inverted World Live. Welcome back, everybody. This is Inverted World Live, and I am your host, Shane Cashman. It's good to be back after the weekend. I hope you guys had a great one. It's been a lot of crazy stuff in the news, and we're going to try to get through some of this stuff because it's getting very inverted out there. But I'd like to say hello to my producer and co-host over here, Brandon. What's up?
What is up, Shane? What is up, everybody? Welcome back for another week of madness. Let's get weird.
Ooh, I just ran over here from the IRL studio, and I left talking about fake clouds, and I walked into a crazy lightning storm. It is going crazy overhead. I wonder if it's going to interrupt our communication tonight. We'll see. It's going pretty wild. It is just so inverted out there. I was thinking about all this stuff going on, and we have, like I said on IRL, for those who are watching, we have a president about to visit Alligator Alcatraz. We had 50 bricks of cocaine wash up on the shores of Alabama.
Here he is.
We've got new UFO videos and this insane story coming out of Idaho. Two, really. But before we get into any of that, I want to remind everyone this is a call-in show. Our phone lines are open. We will get to phone calls around 10:25, 10:30. Link to call-in is pinned in the chat below on both Rumble and YouTube. You've got a weird story, something, some strange encounter, give us a call. I want to give a shout out to everyone who's now joining us from IRL. Thank you for following me over here. I'm a little out of breath from the run through the crazy lightning storm, but we're stoked you're here to join us. And I was just saying that our phone lines are open. We will be here till midnight. We will take any phone call about anything you've got that's some strange story. You know, last week or the week before, we went through, I'm missing my own time, but I was going to say we went through 3 different missing time callers, people, someone who just woke up in another town, a lot of UFO stories. We had someone call in 2 weeks ago who their mother was a victim from Operation Sea Spray, something we've talked about a lot on this show, when our government was experimenting with bioweapons and decided that the best way to experiment was to do it on the people and see how to take care of it. A lot of people got sick that way. So there's no theme, anything goes. And if you don't have a story, but you have some thought about something we've been talking about on the show or something another caller brought up, please give us a call. We'll try to get to everyone, but if we don't get to you, we will get to you tomorrow. We will be back at 10 o'clock at night, Eastern time. So, man, oh man. I was following the story as it was going down. It was horrific. This gunman in Idaho, and he ambushed. So the official narrative is that this gunman set up shop in the mountains or in the hill in Idaho and lit a fire, which lured in these firefighters and started shooting at them. And I believe 2 people lost their lives, 2 firefighters, maybe a police officer as well. The reports were crazy, and I just instantly, you know, I try not to be like, well, everything's immediately got to be government-funded psyop on us. But it's hard not to think about, honestly, when you talk about all these things that we talk about in this show. But I was immediately thinking about other instances recently in the past year or two that have happened that were similar. The one in particular was, and I'll get into an article in a minute about this, but the one that reminded me first was Robert Card in Maine, which is a horrible story about a former military guy who ran up into like a bowling alley with a bunch of kids and killed a lot of people. Horrible story. Later find out after he took his own life, that's the official story. But later find out he had been on the radar, a phrase many of you I'm sure are accustomed to when it comes to these types of stories. Something horrible happens, the authorities come out and say, well, we did know he was on our radar. Robert Card in particular was hearing voices, and he was going through psychiatric treatment and was trying to stop those voices. And that's the story goes that those voices led him to do this horrific tragedy. So we don't know too much yet. We know a name. We know some things about this shooter from yesterday in Idaho. And let's look at the story first, and we'll kind of peel it back and connect it to a few things and just try to make sense of it. Because when it comes to this stuff, I don't think we ever get the full answers, nor should we trust the official stories. Sometimes there are just sick people the world is filled with sick people who just do sick things. So I obviously know that, but I also know that sometimes there's sick people who are instigated by other people to do sick things. So we got this from the AP, and this was updated just an hour ago. So hopefully there's more stuff in here, but let's see. In Idaho, and the title is "Man Shot Idaho Firefighters Who Had Asked Him to Move His Vehicle, Killing 2, Sheriffs Say." A man who started a wildfire and then fatally shot 2 firefighters and wounded another in northern Idaho was a 20-year-old transient who attacked the first responders after they asked him to move his vehicle, a sheriff said Monday. I think it's just despicable to fire upon innocent people, and especially these firefighters. Just a horrible thing to walk into. The last thing they'd expect. And the press conference last night, there's been a few, obviously a lot of these firefighters they're not trained to just walk into something like this. Why would they expect that? Horrible. So the Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris offered new details about the Sunday confrontation at Canfield Mountain, just north of Coeur d'Alene, a popular recreation area. He said Wes Rowley was living out of his vehicle, had once aspired to be a firefighter, and had only a handful of minor contacts with area police. Got to add there. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. This wants to sell me a million ads. I'm trying to read this article. "We have not been able to find a manifesto," the sheriff said, adding a motive was still unknown. Norris said families of the victims are in shock. Absolutely. They're in shock and they're still processing it. Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, 42, who had been with the county fire department for 17 years, was killed, Kootenai County Fire and Rescue Chief Christopher Way said during a news conference Monday. Harwood was married and had 2 children, and he also was a veteran of the Army National Guard. It's just terrible. Coeur d'Alene, Fire Department Battalion Chief John Morrison, 52, was also killed after working with the department for 28 years. Coeur d'Alene Fire Department Fire Engineer David Tisdall, 47, sustained gunshot wounds and was in critical condition. Authorities said he had 2 successful surgeries. So prayers to that gentleman. After the shooting, local law enforcement agencies have offered to go on every call the fire department goes on, according to Way. As you see, they're already adjusting how they deal with this stuff. "I don't know that we're ever going to be able to guarantee people's peace of mind, at least for a while after an incident like this," he said, "but we are taking every measure we can to ensure safety of our responders." Rowley had set a fire using flint, and the firefighters who rushed to the scene instead found themselves under fire. They took cover behind fire trucks. There was an interaction with the firefighters, Norris said. It was something to do with his vehicle being parked where it was. Rowley later killed himself, the sheriff said. He had ties to California, Arizona, and was living in Idaho for the better part of 2024, Norris said. But as far as when he got here, why he was here, why he chose this place, I don't know. So you got 2 helicopters. Rowley lived with T.J. Franks Jr. for about 6 months in Sandpoint, Idaho, while working for a tree service, Franks said on Monday. Franks had cameras in his apartment that caught Rowley throwing gang signs at them one day, which worried Franks to the point that he called police. "I don't know what to really think about it," Franks said. "I just called the cops and had them talk to him." The landlord also called Franks one morning because neighbors reported that Rowley's vehicle had been left running for about 12 hours. Frank said Rowley was asleep in his room and said he forgot about the vehicle. Frank said Rowley started acting a little weird and at one point shaved his long hair off completely. "We just kind of noticed him starting to decline or kind of go downhill," he said. Then we get into this outpouring of support. Outpouring of support for the victims was swift in Coeur d'Alene, a city of 55,000 residents near the border with Washington. Hours after the shooting, people gathered along Interstate 90, holding American flags to pay their respects as the 2 fallen firefighters' bodies were taken to the medical examiner's office in Spokane, Washington, about 35 miles away. We can leave it there. So I don't think there's too much new stuff in here. I do want to stress one thing before I get into my bit about this, is that the sheriff does say, and we should all know, so those people who want to show support monetarily to the firefighters who lost their lives, make sure it's just official, because there's already people trying to scam families, which is disgusting. Such a disgusting thing to do. But that's the world we live in. There's con men everywhere. So I guess the first thing is this sudden decline in character with this person, which we see happen a lot. That might remind you of Luigi Mangione. People said the similar things when he kind of like disappeared, went off the grid, started acting strange. Thomas Matthew Crooks is another one. I mentioned Robert Card earlier from Maine. The mass shooting, I believe, happened in 2023. You know, these people, and today's press conference a little earlier, I don't know if it's referenced in this article, they talked about, you know, he had been visited by the police a few times, one time for trespassing, I believe. It might have been with the car. And the thing with this stuff is the stories just become the stories themselves, because obviously it's hard to get the answers. We don't know what's going on yet. But the way people are digesting the information and the way social media twists narratives, it's impossible to understand what's going on. Depending on who you're listening to online, you know, there's some people who was like, this is an Iranian sleeper cell, right? Or, you know, this was just a sick kid, or it was a satanic accelerationist. We've had BX on the show, Becca, who does a lot of research into that accelerationist world, where people sometimes just pose as Satanists, but their goal is to accelerate the downfall of society, basically. An example of that would be, there's a lot, but one that always comes to mind first is the New Zealand shooter at Christchurch, who seemed like an accelerationist. They sometimes leave behind things, clues in manifestos that make kind of like a political statement, but the political statement goes in either direction. So the people who want to politicize it can then use it as a cudgel against their political enemies. And that seems to be the case a lot of time. Like when this happened and we didn't know who it was yet, there was people saying it was definitely a Trump supporter. It was definitely a Biden supporter, all this stuff. We know nothing. We really don't know anything yet, but people are going to try to use it against you. You know, when I first saw it, I was just thinking it might be ex-military. I don't think that's the case. I was thinking of Robert Card because of that, but he does seem like someone, like the article says, who wanted to be a firefighter. Maybe something was wrong there. But what I've seen so far is that he was going through some sort of psychiatric treatments. I don't know what that means yet, but it's interesting. In the way the information is being pushed out, because people are trying to get clicks on Twitter, they're trying to sell you on their narrative. It's, you know, got to be very careful with all this stuff. The Aryan angle was interesting because it happened, this shooting happened to happen on the anniversary of an Aryan Nation compound being burned down in 2001. I guess they got into bankruptcy. I don't know the whole story. And I think they lit it up. Those coincidences are weird, but it also makes me think of something like co-intelpro. We talked about a bunch on the show with, I think it was with Jose, No Way Jose, and Austin when they came on, talking about how our government would try to infiltrate certain society, like sub-societies, countercultures, if you will, and instigate violence. I'm not saying that's what this is, but the coincidence was weird to me. Certainly the kid does not look like he's part of the Aryan Nation. But like the Thomas Matthew Crooks stuff, we're almost a year away from that happening, when Thomas Matthew Crooks, allegedly, that was him, I really don't know, tried taking Donald Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. We still don't have answers. And that was this very similar story in terms of like, it happened and there's a million answers out there. And that's why I call it the reality buffet. Anything you want to be true, you can go out on the internet and find to be true, and it will confirm any bias you have towards any incident going down. And people are so hyper partisan right now that they want that confirmation so they can hate their political enemy, their so-called political enemy. Like Thomas Matthew Crooks, he was a Biden supporter. He was a Trump supporter. He was all these different things that were completely in contrast of each other. So that was weird. But then beyond that, his whole story is weird. We really don't know anything about him. He trained to shoot at the same kind of place that Homeland Security was training at. His body was cremated prematurely. There was an investigation going down. I believe it was a senator looking into this. He went to Butler. And by the time he went there, which was soon after the shooting, the body was gone. Bizarre. There was a story about he had no silverware in his house. That's bizarre. It's weird stuff. You know, we've been going through just chaos and violence. You think about this year and the end of last year alone, Luigi Mangione, that assassination attempt, or not attempt, that assassination. Then we got the drones. And then day one of 2025, the Cybertruck blew up. Another one of those stories. Everyone's got an idea of what's going on. Even people were connecting it to anti-gravity vehicles, right? We had the person who drove his truck through a crowd on January 1st in Louisiana. I think it was New Orleans. That was weird. Why did a journalist all of a sudden have access to his house when it was still a crime scene? And it just so happened a book to be open to the Quran of, becoming a martyr. And look, that could just be how it went down. I just am interested in how the narrative is controlled and let out. Like with this one that we're talking about now, there was multiple shooters. Then there was one shooter. I don't know. I know things also change during these investigations, but I'm going to be watching this one because it's bizarre. I'm very curious where it's going because it always adds up to something and people forget about it. We've already forgotten about what happened to that guy, Vance Belter, who killed those the political assassinations just a few weeks ago. We're not really talking about that so much anymore. There's a lot of this happening. And, we talk about Mexico and how there was 30 plus political assassinations just last year. And we're like, oh, that's in Mexico. But I mean, it is happening here. Maybe not at that frequency, but it's happening. And, this could just be a sicko that declined mentally and decided this was it. In my opinion, this seems a little more prepared than just someone who is upset about having to move his car. Another inconsistency would be, they said his family's in this area. His father, son had like a tree service, but the police said he was a transient. So maybe there's something happening with his family there that went wrong, or there's no family there. The other thing I thought was interesting, and we see this all the time when these things happen. The sheriff earlier said, I'm going to read the quote so I get it right. So a reporter asked him about the dead suspects' social media accounts. And the sheriff said, we believe they've been wiped, but we don't know why or by who. Those things are weird to me. I'm sure we'll get more info as it comes out. But if you want to, I sent you, Brandon, a video from Owen Benjamin.
Yeah, I've got it.
Owen happens to be in this area. Owen's been on the show a few times. He's got super good insights to this stuff. And he became a reporter. But I like his take. We can listen to just a few minutes of this.
Yeah, just run it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Just wanted to give a little recap of what I think about the shooting in Coeur d'Alene and just how hard it is to discern what's going on, especially while it's happening. I wanted to tweet out everything I was hearing from local law enforcement, like people that I know personally, and kind of tell everybody what was going on directly versus the news that I don't trust. And I experienced something pretty interesting about how easily bad information can travel. I'll give you a perfect example. So the incident was happening near the Costco in Coeur d'Alene. But for me, what near the Costco means is a lot different than what other people would think. And then that could easily travel as at the Costco or the parking lot. The Costco is about 45 minutes from where we live, and that's our local Costco. So, especially when you're dealing with a mountain or a hiking spot or something, if it's only 5 miles from downtown, that's basically downtown if you live in a rural area. Traveling my bank is over an hour away. It's that's how Idaho is a lot of times when you live in a small town. So, just that little thing can go. And so also multiple shooters, people that were there were saying multiple shooters, but then you could have an echo, you could have the fog of war situation. Also, it's been reported for weeks now that there was some plan or some plot to try and pull out law enforcement and shoot law enforcement. That was an Antifa plot, that might have been some other plot, blah blah blah. And so you have all these assumptions flying around and oh, it's really happening, blah, blah, blah. And things can just fly around and no one really knows. And so I don't really have an opinion because after 9/11, I told, those giant events, I was sucked into that one. And then later you can see that was not what was claimed. And then you can see how they say it's the people that hate freedom, but then that's it could also be a false flag to get you into a war and blah, blah, blah. And then you just start realizing that until the dust settles, you're just basically yelling at ghosts. It's whatever you think it is. Because my instinct was that it was cartels, that it was a grow site or human trafficking or something in that area that someone had to set on fire. And when the firefighters came, they were shooting them. And it's probably not that.
We can stop it here. Yelling at ghosts, I think, is just such a good way of putting it when these things happen. And he's right there, right on the ground. And he's got sources right there, people he knows in the area. You know, they're getting that information first. But even that close to a situation, you know, there's still that where he said, he referenced fog of wars, this distortion, this noise, where it's hard to make sense of anything. And again, like he was referencing these major events. We've talked about 9/11, we talked about Sandy Hook, we talked about Operation Northwoods, Gulf of Tonkin. And they're willing to lie about major things. I'm not saying that's the case with this because we just don't know, but I just have a hard time not at least applying a little bit of that to this. It could totally be just a sick kid who wanted to cause death and destruction, super callous, you know, disgusting to go after innocent people. But I just hate that, you know, there's things like the Las Vegas shooting we still don't really have answers for. There's just a ton of stuff that is monumentally horrific that we have no answers for. So it's just impossible when you don't have answers to some of these major events to not apply that nefariousness that we know happens within the government. When you look at something like co-intelpro, maybe we'll do a deeper dive on that another day. Again, because it's just worth thinking about. You know, we talk about Operation Gladio. I've told you guys about the years of lead that happened after an Operation Northwoods that were, you know, possibly, allegedly puppeteered by NATO. And for those who didn't hear that episode, NATO, for those early years of lead in Italy, which was a lot of political false flags, major violence against one another, NATO was run, the supreme commander was General Lemnitzer, who was the guy who presented Operation Northwoods to JFK. So when you know things like that can happen, it's why I can't help but see these things from a few different angles. Again, could just be a sick person. Owen had a totally different take. He was thinking cartels, you know, and all that stuff. And you can look back and see there are other instances within reporting in that area about Iranian stuff happening or some sort of sleeper cells in the area. So, you know, when the borders are wide open for that long, you know, you also can't help but think that some really bad people got through. So, you know, I'm going to keep an eye on that story. The other just small one coming out of Idaho is that Brian Koberger pled guilty. A lot of people are, I think even victim, that's the guy who was arrested for murdering those people in the sorority house. I think it was a sorority house. And just a horrific massacre. And they got him. He's been in jail for a while. And now he pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. A lot of people thought he was innocent. And a lot of people who thought he was guilty wanted a trial. And now we got this. So two like just very sinister scenes in Idaho right now, and just praying for everyone out there, the families who lost people, everyone involved, just horrible. But yeah, do we have any callers yet? I want to know if you want to switch to callers. I do have some other stories I want to get to, but I want to make sure we get to callers. For those who are just now joining us, this is a call-in show. We are so glad you're here. We are going to be live till midnight. We'll take as many phone calls as we can. Our phone lines are currently open. Anyone can call in. It's audio only. The link to call in is pinned in the chat below on both Rumble and YouTube. And if you've got a weird story, if you had a thought on what I just talked about with the Idaho stuff or other things, weird, assassination attempts, plots, these weird shootings that keep popping up with people who are always on the radar of the authorities, give us a call. We want to hear about it. There's no theme. Just something strange in this weird world that we've inherited. We want to talk about it. So let's get to our first caller.
All right. Let's bring in a new name. We got a couple of old callers in here too, so we'll grab you guys too in a little bit. I'm going to bring in Alicia Larson. Alicia, you are on Inverted World Live. What is up?
Hi, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Well, it's a little under the weather actually.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I just discovered I'm allergic to wasps, and
Ooh.
I now have what's called. I have now.
Oh, are we losing you, Alicia?
No, I don't think so. Let me see if I can mute you guys.
Okay.
Okay, I muted you guys.
All right. You were saying you were stung by a wasp.
Yes, and I just discovered I'm allergic to them, and now a couple days later I have what is called serum sickness.
Oh my
where
goodness. What is that?
yeah, it's basically where your body reacts to the venom of the wasp sting and makes you sick to your stomach
Oh, that's terrible.
and stuff. Yeah, it's not a fun thing to discover. Anyway, I've been listening to you guys for the last probably about a week and a half.
Awesome. Thank
I
you.
listened to your podcasts on my on like Spotify, listen to you reading through your books, and I love you. You're awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so, and tonight I actually wanted to tell two stories of, I guess you could say, kind of paranormal stuff,
Cool. Let's hear
but
it.
I can't really, I don't know if it really is or not. Um, the first one was when I was really young. I was still in my late teens, and my dog just died.
Mm.
Um, and then I don't know how many days later, but I remember waking up in the wee hours of the morning. It was completely black in the house. And then for some strange reason, I had the notion to just walk to my bedroom door. And and then when I looked out my bedroom door, I saw my dog. I mean, but I knew she had passed away. And but it was like a light was shining down on her, kind of like a street lamp or something. And I saw her coat glisten and her beautiful brown eyes. And she looked straight at me. And then I don't know how long I stood there just looking at her. And then the next thing I knew, she was just kind of gone.
Hmm.
And I mean, I know animals do have a spirit of some sort, maybe not like humans, but honestly, I think that was her way of saying goodbye to me one last time.
Love
I
that.
don't know if anybody else has had a encounter like that before, but that's one of my stories.
Yeah, I've heard of people seeing their lost pets before. It's unexplainable. People I'm sure are gonna say, "Well, you were still sleeping or whatnot," but it sounds like you knew you were up. You knew it was early in the morning, and you had that
Mhm.
strange feeling to walk to your door. Was there a sound or anything that brought you there? Or it was just that notion.
No, it was just a strange notion that I should wake up and then just walk to my bedroom door. It was a very strange encounter, to say the least.
Hmm.
Um, I was raised Christian, but I've become more of a spiritualist, but I still have strong beliefs in the Bible, and I love the the messages that the Bible does give.
Mm.
But I'm more a believer like reincarnation and the chakras and stuff like that. And so that's just how I am. One more story is when my grandmother died, and let me see if I can remember. It was my when my son was just turned 3. It was actually 2009, and and uh and I had visited her just March of 2009, and then about 6 months later she passed away. Um, but before that, um, I I it was a Saturday night, and I had a very strange dream that I was in a house crying over somebody who died. I recognized the house, but I couldn't really pinpoint where whose house it was.
Hmm.
I could not see the person's face. I could just only see like the silhouette. I remember having short curly hair, which my grandmother did have, and the body was on the floor, and I was crying over her,
Hmm.
over this person. Um, the next morning, I got up, and then I went to work, and then after after I got off of work, it was maybe about a half an hour to an hour after I got home from work. My dad called me and told me that my grandmother died, which of
Wow.
course it made me just completely break down and cry and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until later that night that I put maybe two and two together, because I know my grandmother had short and curly hair. She permed her hair. I when I looked back on the dream, um, the house did resemble the house that she lived in.
Hmm.
And and then I talked to my son's my son's grandmother, my son's father's mother, and she's LDS. She's very, very religious. And I went in and talked to her, and she believes that I was visited by a vision, let me know that my grandmother died. To add to the story, um, my Aunt Nee, who is Thai, she had this feeling that something was happening to her mother-in-law, which is my grandmother, and she tried. Her and my uncle tried to get a hold of my aunt, but they couldn't.
Whoa.
And so it just was one of those weird things that another one of my weird spiritual encounters I've had. And to this day, it still gives me chills when I think about it and tell the story to other people.
I'm
And
sure.
so,
Do you
yeah,
have?
those are my
Have you ever had dreams like that?
stories.
Have you ever had dreams come true before that, or after?
Actually, no, no. I've had other dreams where people have died,
Hmm.
but they haven't, it was just, they never came true. It,
Right.
it was just that one time.
That's wild. Well, those are two crazy
Yeah.
stories. I appreciate you calling in and sharing those with us.
Yeah, not a problem. And I look forward to watching the rest of you guys tonight because I normally am at work from 2 to 11, and apparently this was the only time I was able to call in.
Well, thank you for calling in, and good luck with that wasp bite sting.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too, sir.
Thanks. She talked about her dog passing away, which is, right before we listened to Owen Benjamin, and he had just tweeted this 2 days ago. I keep thinking about this. When you die, he said, you'll know it's heaven if all of your dogs are there waiting for you. I love that. And her other story reminded me of Abraham Lincoln's dream that he had before he was assassinated. He dreamt that he woke up in the White House and heard weeping in a room. And he walked over to the room in his dream, and he saw like guards and people with a body in the room, and there was someone crying over the body. And he went in and he looked at the body, and it was his clean shaven face, and he woke up. And basically, in my opinion, he dreamt about his own assassination because he didn't recognize himself in that dream. If I think it was him in that dream. But when he was assassinated, they shaved his beard, so he was clean shaven when they took him on that. He went on a weird death tour
I would
to
have
Illinois.
sat up on the table in the middle of the autopsy.
Yep.
Do not shave my beard.
Right. It's crazy.
How dare you?
That he kind of dreamt that, and he obviously wouldn't know that they'd shave his beard. Then there's the whole other story of the tour of his body, which was just horrific. Have you heard that?
I heard about some of it, yeah,
just
because
deteriorating.
he's in a tomb in Springfield,
That's right.
Illinois.
That's right.
We go down there a lot. I've only seen it. I've never actually gone like up to it or anything like
Yeah.
that, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'd love to go see it.
It's guarded like all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think they tried a few times. They've tried taking him. That's a thing. People
Yeah.
love to rob graves, even to this day. The early grave robbers were doing it so they could learn how to do autopsies.
Really?
And learn about anatomy. Yeah. Yep. In the good old days. Well, let's get to our next caller.
Cool. Let's bring on Tiny, who we have not heard from in a little bit.
Awesome. Tiny, are you there?
Tiny, what's up?
Hey, what's good, guys? Can you hear me?
Hey, man. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you loud and clear. How you doing?
Excellent, man. Little sad today, man. Sad to hear about those firemen in Idaho, and I just wanted to talk about that for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's horrible. I've been thinking about them
It
all day.
is good.
Oh, no, the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, floor is yours.
Okay, bro. So, it is a very horrible thing, and I will tell you right now that there is intel, open source intel, that there are planned attacks on hospitals, first responders, stuff like that. But I can tell you, even back in the mid 90s, that was intel that we were receiving. Specifically back then, the abortion clinic bombings were a big thing.
Right.
Um, and you know, first responders, primarily firemen and EMTs, are soft targets, man. And so if you're
Mm-hmm.
going out to make a statement, that's what you're going to do.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this isn't an uncommon occurrence, and I mean it's not something that happens every week or whatnot. But you know, I can give you a couple examples.
Please. Yeah.
Not even necessarily with gunplay all the time, but Montgomery County, Maryland, back in the late '90s, maybe early 2000s. Guy called 911, said he was sick. EMTs got there, ended up having to bail out of a second story window because he tried to kill him with a knife. Um, there was an incident up in Maine, I believe it was. Guy set a house on fire, and I mean, a lot of people do this: set houses on fire and then open fire on the firemen. You know, start shooting at the firemen as soon as they arrived.
Mm.
That guy killed a few firemen in Maine. That wasn't that many years ago. Kentucky, another incident. I think it was a domestic. The wife was laying in the front yard, shot. The first responding engine company officer and the medic got off, went to go attend to her, and they dude shot them up, and I think somebody else. Like I said, it happens. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't disagree, man. The circumstances surrounding this guy's past and whatnot. I think more so. I don't look at this necessarily as a situation where he was activated by some entity, and that's the reason why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guy's a nut job, but I
Yeah.
think more so where you're seeing the propaganda is the fifth generational warfare. It's the information war. It's who
Yeah.
can get out the propaganda the first. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Initially, right after this dude was identified, so I was a biker, and I started seeing information where people were saying that he was linked to a 1% bike club,
Mm.
and that's why he did it. And I don't believe that to be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't necessarily go around trying to pick fights with the feds or
Right.
law enforcement and whatnot. They try to stay away from them as much as possible. So
Right.
but again, I only bring that up simply because I think that really the play here is the informational warfare.
Mm-hmm.
It's who can get the narrative out first. Like I said, there's a bunch of crazy narratives. People saying it's Antifa, blah blah blah. I think that probably dude is just a nut job, man. It sounds like that was the pattern. But again,
Yep.
if you're going to use an operative, you're going to put that pattern of life narrative out there anyway. So
Yeah, that's what's so crazy is he could just be a sicko, and then there's people who have these narratives they want people to believe in, so they just attach themselves to the story so they can use him. Like there's people who want war with Iran, so they're like, oh, this guy must have been with Iran. He's in a sleeper cell, and then it helps them push their narrative for war. It's just insane.
yeah, I agree, man. And I mean, it could be as simple as like this dude had a mental break. He decided that the gods were telling him that he needed to set a fire to save, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the firemen showing up were, the devil attacking God. And so he defended God by killing firemen. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like
Right.
it could be as simple as something like that. Like just like as a side story, man, dealing with people with psychotic episodes. There was a dude in this area that wasn't even from here. But anyway, long story short, he ended up causing a bunch of havoc downtown. I ran into him at the hospital at the time I was working there and in security. And I had a conversation with him in the middle of a psychotic break. And during the conversation, he explained to me that his mother and his wife were in danger, and that's why he had broken into the house that he was in. So I asked him to explain further, and he told me that um, I said, well, were you able to get to both of them? And he said, what do you mean both of them? And I said, well, you said your mother and your wife. And he said, well, my mother and my wife are the same person. Incest is the purest, form of love. And then 3 days
Wow.
later, he took a nosedive out of the third floor window, of course,
Wow.
on my day off. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Right.
Yeah. And then later he committed suicide. He ended up getting flown to Baltimore. He later committed suicide off part. At least this is what I was told. He committed suicide by jumping off a parking deck in Baltimore from University of Maryland when he was released.
Wow. So he
So
survived that swan dive.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But
Wow.
that's because in his mind, God was telling him, "Hey, bro, you can fly." You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah, it's like
you
when I
got
talk
it,
about
homeboy.
it's like when I
Do
talk
it.
about the Herbert Mullins serial killer who, he was convinced that he had to take people's lives to save California from sinking into the Pacific. There's definitely just sick people out there. When it comes to first responders, like, what do you think? Is it going to get to a point where they just have to start caring? Like, is that a possibility? I guess it depends on the state, right?
So, yeah, I mean, there are some places that do allow. I mean, I can tell you right now, I personally have never seen or known of a fireman to carry on a fire engine, but I've heard rumors of a lot of them. I know that during times of civil unrest, like specifically the old heads when I first joined talked about, the Martin Luther King riots and
Mm-hmm.
shit,
Yep.
and that, they all were armed to the fucking teeth because of the
Right.
fact that they were all white dudes showing
Yeah.
up on a fire truck, man, and they were I mean, we've had incidents in the community before. There was a dude high on PCP that burnt down an entire shopping center, took pop shots at us,
Wow.
um, took pop shots at the police, ended up dying in the fire. Anyway, family accused us of letting him burn. Well, now homeboys tried to shoot me. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
But
Wow.
anyway, the next call that we ran into that community, we ended up having the ambulance was by themselves because it came out as a medical. They called for assistance, and we ended up having to run in there with axes and Halligan bars to try to prevent them from getting jumped by people in the community because word had spread that we'd let this dude die.
Right. And now you're the
You know,
enemy, even though you're there to help.
exactly, man. It had nothing to do with it, like and I won't go into any of the gruesome shit or whatever, but like, dude was right at the front door, man. I mean, I was there the next day to recover his body.
Wow.
The gun was right there with him. Like, I can promise you, it wasn't a figment of our imaginations. You
Of
know what I
course.
mean? So,
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think it's good for everyone to just remain as calm as possible when trying to understand these situations while, understanding all the crazy stuff we know, but also just like
mhm.
sometimes it's just a crazy person. Like that Robert Card story, I think is really weird in Maine, where he just shows up and does this stuff. He has a psychiatric history, hearing voices and stuff, you know, could be just all alone. I don't think this story in Idaho is going to be, I really don't. My gut says it's not going to be something that happens more in that area. But, when it comes to the accelerationist stuff, we've been seeing a lot of that take off, whether it's
Mhm.
mass shooters or people convincing others to harm themselves. So, it's all these things we have to consider. But it's just good to remember, like you're saying, we can't get too emotionally tied to a narrative when it comes to this stuff. That's what they want.
Right. Right. And I'll throw you, I'll even, throw you one right down down the pike, man. I have personally seen intelligence, like law enforcement intelligence, that has come from Antifa where they give specific directions on how to start wildland fires.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't disagree, man. This is 100% could be an accelerationist, and this dude in his own mind might have been an accelerationist, not even associated with
Yes.
anybody that we know of. You know what I mean?
That's
So
that feels closest to reality, honestly. The more we dig
yeah.
in, it's gonna be hard to know. They wipe this guy's social media platform, and then maybe if it is something more nefarious outside of him just being a sicko, they can swoop him and be like, "Here's the social media," and it's not even legit. It's weird that it's gone, but it could have been the
Right.
platforms taking it off because they do that as well. So they're just like, "Oh, we found him. Let's delete it," and then maybe they give it to the authorities. I don't really know what happens with it, but it happened with Thomas Matthew Crooks. It happens a lot with these stories, which doesn't help. But yeah, no, it's weird. And a lot of those fires out in California started by
Mhm.
arsonists. It wasn't all climate change. It's people out there
Yeah.
trying to cause destruction.
Yeah, well, people out there cause destruction, and Democrats are retards. Sorry, I
Yes.
probably shouldn't have said that,
No,
man.
we're gonna put that on a bumper sticker now.
You probably should, man. And I can tell you right now, it's really funny because they've been scrubbed. But I can remember sitting in the firehouse like in the late '90s, early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s. Who the hell knows? But anyway, I remember reading an article in Firehouse magazine talking about Cal Fire was screaming at the top of their lungs about the mismanagement of the forestry out there, about how they weren't doing prescribed burns like they were
Right.
supposed to. They were very concerned about a massive wildland fire taking place.
Yep.
And nothing's changed, man. They
Right.
never allocated the funds to do anything
Oh,
about it,
but when Trump says, you should be doing those controlled burns, he's all of a sudden an idiot. He doesn't know what he's
Right.
talking about.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they're
And
insane.
I can tell you, and I'm not a red card wildland fireman. I was a structural fireman. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'll go crawl through anything that's on fire except the woods, bro. Trees explode. That's
Wow.
not a cool place, and I don't run. I'm too big to run. So
Wild.
wildland firefighting's just not for me, bro. Crawling is much better pace of life for me, and that's how structural firemen do their deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And then
So,
I can't imagine all the fire that these guys yesterday had to deal with. You know, they're in this brush fire, smoke,
mhm.
and then they're being shot at. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, dude, it'll definitely cause you to shit yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's
But
horrible.
it's like I said, it's not necessary. I mean, and then again, I started in the mid '90s, dude. We had bulletproof vests back then,
Hmm.
and we had SOPs in place where on certain incidents we were required to wear a bulletproof vest either underneath of our turnout gear or over top of it.
Wow.
And so it's not unheard of. I mean, firemen have been targets in the past, but specifically like domestic violence was where it usually was. But
Hmm.
again, you can get that whack job that's just like, hey man, I'm gonna make the newspaper tonight.
Do you know what it was that made firefighters start wearing the bulletproof vest? Was there some story from the 90s that were like, we got to do this now?
Oh, it probably came before then. So the ones that had were like hand-me-downs from the police department,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so it probably was something where like they were embezzling money and sold them to the fire department because it's like an interagency transfer and they
Hmm.
sold it and somebody whatever, who the hell knows.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't know of any specific incidents myself. I would imagine that's probably more of not a national type incident but more
Hmm.
of like a regional or local type incident that spurred
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
um my firehouse in the mid '90s, right out our back door was Section 8 housing project. I mean,
Mm.
Friday and Saturday nights, you could go out and listen to the gunshots. And we knew it was time to pull a bulletproof vest out because somebody just got shot up.
Right. Yeah. That's
So,
wild.
yeah, I don't know exactly that there was a catalyst specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. Just hand me downs. Well, I appreciate
Mhm.
you calling in and giving us that context, man. Always a pleasure talking.
Yeah, bro, you guys have a great night.
Thanks,
Excellent
man.
show as always, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate talking to you guys,
Appreciate it,
man.
Thanks,
man.
Sonny.
Have a good night.
Yeah, be safe, fellas.
Thank you. Same to you. Oh man, always a pleasure hearing from him. Let's go to other callers. But for those who are just now joining us, our phone lines are open. We'll be here till midnight. If you have a weird story, strange encounter, near-death experience, abduction, brainwashing, military abduction, cryptids, you name it, sleep paralysis, we want to hear about it. We've heard some. Want to hear more? A lot of people seeing UFOs. Last week we had a bunch of UFOs in the news. We had that sphere, which thanks to our caller from last week, I wish I remember his name, called it the bogus sphere. And I agree. Is that paper still up? There we go. The bogus sphere. And then we had another meteor actually fall out of the sky since I last saw you guys. Did I send you that?
No?
Oh yeah, let's see if I have it on my phone. Another meteor. Like I think the day after we talked about the meteor in Georgia, another one fell out of the sky, and trying to see if I have it on here. I believe Michael Underwood on
4
Twitter
days
shared it
ago.
with me on Twitter. Thank you for that. I'll try to pull it up. You see it? It was in Massachusetts, I believe.
Multiple reports of fiery ball. Okay, so this is footage from
That's that.
the first one. This is still the first one, so
Yeah, it was. This one was
not use
in.
that.
I'm seeing it reported in Boston. My heart was pounding. Massachusetts woman said, and she captured video of mysterious object falling from sky. So that was June 26th. There's been a lot of things falling from the sky. It was actually the same day. I guess we probably talked about it. Things are falling out of the sky, people. I thought some of them are hoaxes. I totally don't believe in the bogus sphere. I think that's just bunk. The more I see it, the more I see people talking about it, I'm like, this can't be. There is another sphere out there that people have been commenting on the videos, and I will look into it. I think it's called the Betz sphere, Betz. I think it happened in Florida. I looked at it briefly. I want to look at it again. Believe it's from many years ago, but it's another sphere story. So we'll have to pull it up at some point. But I appreciate you guys sharing that with me.
Oh, you know what? You did. I do have this. I forgot. This is
Let's pull it up.
this
Let's
is
see
the
what this is
Boston
about.
25
Yeah.
news report.
Yeah, cool.
Let's see. Yep, this is it right here.
A lot of A's in this lady's name.
Yes.
Goodness.
A couple of Z's.
Wow.
All right, let's get into it.
Says she was enjoying the pool Wednesday night when she saw a strangely shaped and unfamiliar object falling from the sky just over there. The whole thing now caught on video.
Then I like look up here to the sky, I see something falling down, so I pulled out my phone and like I zoomed in and it was like right about like there.
Colleen McCormick was out by her hot tub around 9 Wednesday night when she says she saw something strange and unfamiliar up above.
I see something like falling down from the sky.
those
like,
are
blinking
obviously
lights, and it looked
boosters,
like it was,
right?
like,
I mean,
on
different.
fire or something, and it was just coming down really fast. I had no idea what it could have been.
McCormick captured this 8-second video from her backyard showing an unidentified object
That's not a
headed
meteor.
straight down.
There's like 3 things, so it looks like it's fire or a big
It's one of those
light.
Chinese
Expecting
lanterns.
to hear a loud boom of some sort, she ran
Whoa.
to the front of her home to hopefully capture the landing.
If you've seen any of like Elon's recent tests,
Yeah.
those things come burning back down on a trijet just like that.
Right.
And right before
But
they
in
get to the dock, they
Massachusetts.
flip and invert. Yeah, so that's the only thing I can't explain here is what the hell is this thing doing?
If it was in Florida, we could look at the SpaceX
Yeah.
timeline, see when their
But they're
launches
usually
were.
doing most of this out of Texas.
Yeah. Weird. That's so weird.
So-
I don't know what that is.
I mean,
That is weird.
if we bring it back a little bit here, I'm
Let's
pretty
look at it again.
sure
To hear a loud
like I mean, for me you can see 3 boosters here.
Oh yeah, there's definitely.
And there's also one on the very front of it, which would, in theory, be there to slow this thing's, velocity back to reentry. So, I mean, I'm calling rocket on this. I just,
Where did it land?
I just don't know what the hell it was doing in Massachusetts. That's
Where did it land? Like, we know the meteor landed on someone's house. It was
oh
very
yeah.
small.
What was that lady's name? The news reporter gave us the
Grace with the PowerPoint.
Was it Grace? Yeah, Grace. The Grace PowerPoint. That's what
Yeah.
it was. Where did it land?
Yeah, where did it land? It wasn't a falling plane, and it wasn't a missile.
That's what I want to see. Was this a plane? Was it a missile?
This is bizarre. Yeah, I don't remember looking at that weird. So things just keep falling out of the sky. Maybe it's Boeing again. I don't know, people. But thank you for sharing that with that. I believe that was Michael Underwood who shared that with me on Twitter. And we're just seeing a lot of this stuff these days. I don't know if there's any power outages, because I think we saw that 2,000 people claimed to have lost their power when that meteor in Georgia hit. I don't know.
And give us your thoughts about this in chat. I'm curious to see what everybody thinks this thing is.
Yep.
The video. This is the first video I've seen in weeks that we've covered that looks legitimate. So, but it also definitely looks like a rocket to me.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Sweet Chicago Bulls hat, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Awesome.
you. I had to drive like an hour for this damn thing.
Awesome.
There's no proper lids out in our area. So unfortunately for me, every time I want to go get a new hat, it's a hike.
That's like Owen in his bank, hour away. Well, let's get to another caller.
Yeah, I felt that, by the way, when you said that your bank is an hour away. Mine is too.
Yeah.
So I felt that.
Yeah. We
All
are
right.
in the middle of nowhere.
Let's get Corbin Douster in here.
All right. Corbin,
if you can hear us, engage your mic.
hello. Corbin, are you there?
He's got a cool avatar. He's got the Northern Lights going on in the background, but he's got no mic.
All right. So signs of life. They're talking about water on Mars recently. I don't know if you saw that story.
All right, now I got a mic for you. I just need you to unmute it.
Corbin, we are here.
There he is.
Hey,
What is up?
Yeah. What's up?
not much, guys. How we doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be on. I'm happy to be here, and I'm a big fan of you guys.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. So I've got, you can kind of take your pick of the litter. I have a missing time story, kind of boring one, to be honest.
Okay.
I have a UFO story. This one's awesome. It's like gold certified. And I have now I forgot. Oh, a demon story. So you can pick whichever one you want.
I'm gonna go with gold certified.
He had me at gold certified.
I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ready.
It was great branding. Let's do it.
All right. So backstory, not very short. I'm a private pilot, right? I was
Okay.
training to become a commercial pilot. So I know a little bit when it comes to looking at the sky.
Yeah.
I was at work I sell cars. I was at work showing a vehicle to somebody in the back, and it had just gotten dark out. Sun just went down. And off in the distance, I see all these lights. You know the spotlights that they used to do in front of theaters when movie theaters used to be big? You could see them from the other side of town,
Yep.
like during a show release, a
Mhm.
movie release. That's what it looked like. It looked like 7 or 8 of those. And I was like, but it was elevated, like it was coming out of the middle of the sky. And it was just really, really bright, probably several miles out. And I turned to the guy that I'm talking to, and I'm like, I just noticed those. Do you see those? He says, yeah. I was like, I'm a pilot. I have no idea what the hell that is. He was like, I'm an aerospace engineer, and I have no idea what the hell that is. I was like, okay, well, that's weird. So, this is definitionally a UFO. I know it's not like necessarily an alien craft or anything. But then the next day, I'm talking to a coworker who's a good friend of mine. And we're just having a normal conversation. This was around the same time that all the sightings were happening, the drones were happening, all that stuff was going on, like toward the beginning of the year.
Yep.
And so I was talking about it a bunch, and I had never had a UFO sighting, but I didn't say anything about this. I had forgotten about it. He says to me, dude, I need you to not be annoying about this, but I'm going to show you this. My wife was walking the dog the other day. So let's say I was south of where the lights were. He lives east of where the lights were. And he says, my wife was taking a walk with the dogs the other day, and she saw this in the sky, and she was like, oh, that's so weird. What is this? And so she took a video from a different part of town of the same thing me and this aerospace engineer saw and couldn't identify, thinking herself that it was a UFO. And he didn't even want to share it with me. I didn't tell him about my sighting. He just volunteered it to me. And so from where they were at, it was to the west. Okay. So I was able to actually figure out where it was coming from to make sure there wasn't an airport there, and there wasn't, or anything like that. It was out in the middle of nowhere. It was open, unworked land. So 3 different people, video evidence, nobody knew what it was, identifiable area, gold certified. That was crazy sighting.
Did the video look exactly like what you were seeing the day before?
No, it was identical. It was the same thing. Obviously, different angle, but yeah, it was the exact same thing. And like I said, it was like several spotlights that went up, and then they showed up as quickly as they disappeared. They vanished all at the same time. I stayed out and watched them for a minute. We both did. We were really mesmerized by them. They were really, really bright. It was easily like 1.5 miles, 2 miles away.
So it was like they were coming down from the clouds.
No, they were coming up.
They were coming up.
They were coming up, which is why I was like, maybe it's a runway light or something. Gotcha. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but it could happen. But it was a pretty clear night too. So it wasn't like a trick. There was multiple of them. They were uniform in the way that they were shooting out the light themselves. And so it was just super weird.
Was it like a golden light?
No, it was legit like LED almost, right?
Oh, okay.
Like, it was white light.
White light. Okay. And it looked like it was all coming from one area for the most part? Like not one source, but and from the same basic area?
Yeah, from the same area, but not from the ground. It looked like they started in the middle of the sky.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird.
Super weird. Super weird. A pilot, aerospace engineer, and random woman. There's video. We triangulated the position. There's nothing above or below the area where we saw them. So that's almost as good as it gets. Those are pretty wild ones.
That is wild. Did you ever look up online if anyone else saw anything similar?
I looked around. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find any articles around it, but the area I live in is all boomers. They were probably in bed by then. I don't want to dox myself.
Yeah, I don't want you to do that. Yeah.
But yeah, so like median age in my area is like 82. So There was like nobody out. Right. So it is what it is. It was like almost 9 o'clock.
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Very strange. And they just disappeared after a little while.
Yeah, just they reappeared. They appeared out of nowhere all at the same time because it was multiple of them. and then they disappeared at around the same time. There was like one or two lagging behind, and then it disappeared too.
So I know.
And here's the other thing:
Oh, yeah.
like when you're flying, there's a reason why you're not supposed to point those lasers and flashlights and stuff at planes.
Right.
I've had that happen to me while I was flying at night, and you can't see anything. It like blinds you.
That's crazy.
And it's so obvious where it's coming from. And actually the FAA is really good at like figuring out who did it. So most of the time when people do that, they actually do get arrested or fined
Wow.
because you reported in from the plane and they're like on it. They know exactly where it's coming from. You've got a really good chance of catching them.
Yeah.
Wow.
I fly with my buddies sometimes, and we've had to report drones and stuff like that were in like no-fly zones near the airport, and you're like, you see it, you know, as it, like I'll usually co-pilot for him, and I'll be constantly looking around, you know, for birds or things like that to fly, because he's flying like a one-prop, you know, Saratoga.
Yeah, same.
And it's awesome, but it's also your head's got to be on a swivel because you don't know where these aircraft are coming from, and sometimes there's some, you know, idiot flying a drone right by the airport when he shouldn't be, and it's crazy how insanely dangerous that is. Like you can actually take out somebody and kill a number of people in a plane crash, you know, just being a jerk like that. Yep. So
general aviation is not safe, right? It's like airline aviation is the safest way to travel, but general aviation, single prop planes, Cessnas, Pipers is what I flew. They're not safe planes. Right?
Not at all.
They break down all the time. They have engine issues all the time. They crash all the time. Oh, really quick. Are you a member of MS-13? I noticed the Bulls hat.
So you'll notice in the pictures that Abrego Garcia is wearing the black and white one. I actually did try to purchase the black and white one from the lids out in Dulles, and it was too small.
Let's see your finger tattoos. You have knuckle tattoos?
No.
Yeah,
I abstained from the knuckle tattoos.
Okay, all right.
I'm Chicago, you know, born and raised basically, but I
that's
abstained from
hilarious.
the prison tattoos. You know,
Okay.
I only went to jail one time.
I love Chicagoans. There's only a couple I've met that I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah, they're good peeps.
Most of us, but you know, some of us are complete dicks.
So
too,
you said you said that this was happening around the time the drones were happening in Jersey. What was your take on all that while it was going down?
So I think that those were definitely either experimental government or alien UFO. They're I don't know if you guys remember the story of the police chief out of New Jersey who came out and said, we don't know what these are. They're going way too fast for our scanners.
Yeah.
We tried to figure out what they were and we can't.
Yep.
I think that when Trump came out with his report on it, that he was fed a bunch of bullshit, which leads me to believe that it's one of those two things. But from all the videos I saw, there was a lot of fake ones that were just like actual drones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that always happens, and there are drones, but there was many of them that were not drones at all. They were definitely something else, and there was a lot of them. And in my opinion, and I'm not a professional, but I have friends who are professionals as far as aviation is concerned, and they agree with me that the ones in question, you know, that were irrefutably not like regular drones were definitely at least some government experimental technology.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And then before I let you go, what do you think you saw on this night when it just got dark? Do you think it's something like what you're just saying, military tech, or do you think it's something extraterrestrial, weird like that?
Well, it's hard to say because when you see lights in relation to like any kind of UFO stuff, most of the time it's like, well, that's just this kind of plane and it's got these lights and it's required to be on at night, right? But these were really bright spotlights, which are not legal. They were in an area where, because I was actually right by an airport, but it was not in the direction of the airport. It didn't have anything to do with that. And it didn't make sense that they had anything to do with like at least any GA planes. Now the issue is that they're LED lights, right? So like to say conclusively that that's like aliens is not really that doesn't really make sense either. But they were also dancing around. So it's hard to say. Like I think that unidentified is the most accurate way to put it. I don't know. I think that whenever it comes to the alien, I'm one of those people who's like, any technology sufficiently advanced is essentially magic, and just like with Atlantis and stuff, I don't want to put it on the aliens because that's just like hand waving it away. I like to say there's probably a human solution to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
and so that's probably the case here. But who knows? I'd like to be wrong. I want to believe, as they say, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's weird. It's these things we can't explain. They're bizarre. I think it's typically human stuff. I mean, there's some things I've heard I can't explain. It's hard to imagine some humans doing it, but I think we've built things we just can't comprehend yet. That, by we, I mean people in like deep underground building some sort of crazy Lockheed Martin thing that they just test out in the public. Maybe you saw one of those.
I think that the biggest indicator that aliens are real are actually crop circles. They're probably the most like definitive proof of aliens.
Interesting.
And it's just like with the drone thing. Yeah, a good amount of them are done by people, but some of them are not able to be recreated by people, and they appear too quickly, and the designs are kind of uniform across. I don't know if you've looked into those. I haven't heard you talk about it, but if you haven't, I encourage you to deeply, because they're way, way, way more likely to be aliens than anything else.
Yeah, I think it was last week we did a bit on it because there's a new one out of Wiltshire, and it looks fake to me. It's like a Joker face, but that story led me to looking at crop circles, something I never really took all that seriously. And after that, I'm like, okay, I got to look into these a little more, because some of them are just so bizarre, and they claim to have been made in just seconds, and they're so intricate. So either we've got something we don't know that just makes that stuff immediately, or it's something else.
I feel like you got to look at old pictures of crop circles in order for it to really, because AI is just ridiculous now, and there's a crop circle with an aerial view. There's no way in hell you're going to be able to tell whether it's real or not from looking at these things, man.
No, what you need to see is the weaving pattern of the grass, right? Because that's the indicator. When people do it, it just kind of gets crushed underneath. But when you have these really ridiculously complex ones, the ones from the early 90s or early 2000s, late 90s and stuff like that, you're finding these really complex geometric patterns. Sure, that's par for the course for these, but when you look at the actual like wheat or whatever crop it's being put into, they're not crushed or destroyed. They're woven into each other. And that's where it gets crazy. Like when you start seeing all the details on that, like it's one of those things where it's really easy to be like, oh, you crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy bullshit. But the more you look into it, the more you're like, wait, maybe the moon is hollow. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things.
Now we're talking. Do you have a certain crop circle story you recommend us looking into?
What I would say is the Y-Files did a really good episode about it, and I would check that out to get started. Cool. I don't have a ton of the specifics on hand because I lost it in an old computer. I'm like a file guy.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, the Y-Files are amazing. They do some great videos. So I didn't know they did one. I'll look that up for sure. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate the phone call.
Hey, before I go, if you guys don't mind checking out my YouTube channel, Corbin, Dauster. I cover news and stuff, and I just started it up. It's getting pretty popular with shorts, and I would love to have you guys there. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, congrats on that, and thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Corbin.
Thanks. Take care. Love you. Bye.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Crop circles are making a comeback. Dude. I love it.
So while we got a second here, obviously like, follow, subscribe, share the show with everybody. I want to get to, since we were just broaching the topic of things that are unexplained, I want to get into, I had a super chat here that came in from Catherine Gillen, I believe. Cool. So she was playing bingo with her cousin, was for big money, and as they were marking the numbers off, they noticed they had already marked them off. My cousin also noticed this, yet the numbers we both marked off were never called out. We couldn't explain it.
Ooh.
Super creepy.
Crazy.
And then did you want to get into really quick, we just crossed the 11 o'clock hour here on the East Coast. Do you want to talk about this thing?
Yeah.
Because I thought that this would be good too, since we were just talking about mysterious flying. I can't tell what the hell it is.
Yeah. This one's really weird. This is even weirder than the last thing we saw in Massachusetts.
So right before the show, me and Shane kind of reviewed this video to check it out. And I couldn't come up with head to toe on what the hell I was seeing. There's some views where it looks authentic. There's other views where it's just like, what even is happening? So we're going to show it to you. I want your guys' opinion. Throw it up in chat, or feel free to call in, discuss it whenever you want. But let's run the video here.
We're looking at the sky over LA just a few nights ago. What would you say that looks like? Like, it's kind of...
It looks like boba tea.
Smokish.
It looks like boba tea. Like someone just stirring
Yeah.
boba tea.
Yeah, you're right. Right.
You know, and like on the zoom out, you know, this is obviously shot on a cell phone. So I don't know, you know.
It could just be AI.
It could also just be AI.
Yeah.
My thing was the different fading in some of these patterns. Some are in the foreground, some are in the background, but they all appear to be hovering around each other in close proximity. Unless there's a cloud or something that they're messing around in over there, I don't see that being a likely thing. So this kind of
really big bugs.
Kind of has a little fake look to it when it's zoomed in here. But give us your thoughts. What the hell do we think that is?
If it's not a hoax, people are certainly a little more paranoid than they have been in a while with the skies, because we're seeing so many videos lately. You know, whether it's meteors, whether it's, you know, people talking about missiles and planes, or these spheres that we've seen down in Colombia, we've seen in China. It's ramping up. I think that's the thing we should be paying attention to, why this is ramping up. You know, this weekend I was like, oh, you know, there's a new Trump story in aliens. So I looked into it. I'm like, oh, this is old. This is like a year old. And that goes back into me asking why. Why is this now going viral again? You know, there was a story saying that Rep Burleson, who we talk about a lot on the show, had like said that David Grush told Trump about Nordic aliens. And then I saw Burleson comment on one of those stories, and he said, no, I didn't. But that story went so viral in that UFO world on Twitter. I'm sure it bled out. But I'm like, why is all this happening now? And then on top of all that, there was Trump on, I think, Fox and Friends talking about aliens and how that's like the thing he's asked about the most. Again, that was about a year or two old. So it's like some things just take off on Twitter again, even though they're old, but people think they're new. And then that, with everything we're seeing, all these things with the Boogosphere, which I think is a total fake, total hoax. My gut says they're trying to just push this alien agenda on us for some reason, for the fake alien invasion is my reasoning. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like the Project Bluebeam stuff is going to be in effect soon.
Well, we've got some feedback from people here.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We've got some people that think it's balloons, other people that think it's insects. Sky jellyfish is one of them coming out of here. Swarm of insects, it looks like, or something that is clumped together to absorb more sun warmth with their black bodies.
All those seem legitimate.
Completely.
I'm with the, I don't know. Balloons, I thought, was the first thing I thought when I saw that, but it seems wispier than balloons.
It does. The movement was not natural to like wind or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was being, you know, purposely spun or stirred or something, but it didn't look like it had any free will at the same time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No free will in the UFO. Big tell. But like, it's also funny to think about, I'm talking about the paranoia of people in the skies right now, and then thinking of the paranoia the government has with the skies. Whereas, like, I've said this before, we had the drones in Jersey and nothing was attacked or blown up in terms of us attacking them. But we had a weather balloon from Hobby Lobby floating in the skies, and we shot it down with a $2 million missile. So it's like, why are some things a threat and others not? I don't know.
Your tax dollars hard at work, by the way.
Yep. If they're not funding dolphins taking acid, getting inappropriate with people like interns in Florida, we're shooting down balloons. Welcome to America. Gotta love it.
And
Gotta
also,
love it.
while we got a second too, let's get this out there. Culture War Live is going to be doing 3 shows in DC coming up June 26th, July 2nd, and July 9th at the Comedy Loft in DC. Tickets are $30 for GA. Yours truly will be there hanging out, so come up, say what's up. We will have a chat about all things conspiratory.
Yeah, that'll be fun. One of those is with Malice and Stein, right?
Yeah, Malice, and I forget who. I got to look up and see who the other guest was, but it's supposed to be a riot because they're both really funny dudes on opposite sides, so I'm kind of excited for that. And Mike is cool, so.
Yep.
All right.
Check it out. All right, let's do another caller.
Let's do it. So, I can already tell you guys, I love that so many people are calling. We got a bunch of people in here right now. We are not going to
Amazing.
get to everybody again.
Thank you, guys.
We do have a couple of recurring callers, and one of them happens to be your personal favorite.
Is it a sergeant?
It looks like Sarge is here.
Let me talk to Sarge briefly because I'm going to ask him something.
Okay.
Sarge, this will be brief because we have a lot of people and this is a callback. But I'm going to ask you something.
All right. Let's bring
For those who
on
don't know, we are about to be joined by Sergeant Peyton
of the Fourth Reich.
Of the Fourth Reich. He told us about Base 211 with an 8 million people population beneath Antarctica, floating atom bombs in the atmosphere. We talked about Operation High Jump, U-boats underneath Houston and Montauk. Peyton, are you there?
Sarge, you're back. If you can unmute your mic.
Uh-oh. Base 211 took him.
And if you had the Fourth Reich Sergeant calling in tonight on your bingo cards, you are the big winners. But we got to get him to unmute his mic first.
Uh-oh. Come on, Sergeant. You're better than this.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
there
now we
is.
can. Shane, can you hear me?
I can, sir. How are you?
Oh, fine. Fantastic. Great. You surprised me there. I wasn't exactly ready to go into it so suddenly. I was there forever, actually. Yes, I heard you talking about aliens and time travel. It just so happens that I attend a church, and we're not Christian. We're spiritualists. We're spiritualists, and it's actually tarot card readers that lead our churches. We're actually, as I said, a spiritualist. It's the same religion as a former President Abraham Lincoln, and we're taught to actually tune in and communicate with extraterrestrials in our churches across America. We're few and far between, but we're taught how to use our third eyes or pineal brain glands and communicate with extraterrestrials or aliens in our churches with the help of genuine tarot card readers that lead our churches. And we go back to the days of President Abraham Lincoln in the town called I'm trying to think Lilydale, New York State. Again, Lilydale, New York State is where we hail from or come from, and so we've been in America for a long time, and also time travel. Believe it or not. Time travel is also taught in our religion. There's actually a church about that in Houston, Texas. It's called First Spiritual Church of Houston. Again, First Spiritual Church of Houston. And as you know, you can go to my books as a published author of 62 books as a Peyton, Peyton, Cottrell, Cottrell II on Amazon. I've got 62 bucks. So yes, time travel and talking to aliens or extraterrestrials is actually quite easy. It's actually almost too easy, and we're basically unlike most churches. First of all, we're not Christians. We're spiritualists, and they teach us instead of using your hands to pray to God. They prefer us to learn how to go ahead and activate our third eyes, also known as a pineal brain gland. And the word pineal is spelled Pineal. Pineal, and the way that you activate the pineal brain gland is either self-awareness. Good grief, there it is. Well, voila, it's already activated. Or two, meditation. So it would definitely help if individuals actually believe in the spirit world. That would help.
Hey, Peyton, do you think
wait, I'm quite relaxed actually. I'm quite relaxed, but
Sergeant
yeah,
Peyton,
Shane,
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I wasn't exactly ready to come on so suddenly because I was on there forever.
Well, hey, listen. A few things really quick. Do you think the fluoride in the water was to calcify the pineal gland to stop what you're doing?
Yes, and there's actually certain things that can actually hurt the pineal brain gland or third eye. Um, so sometimes when you're around caustic people, or people who are very mundane, or they're just very callous people. You've heard of people sometimes saying that the vibes or the vibrations in certain workplaces do not appeal to them is because even for people who aren't spiritual, or they're just afraid of their own spirituality. That's understandable. The walk right out of place is because the feeling isn't right for them. Well, and they don't even know this, but basically they're actually reacting to the discomfort of their own third eyes. Even for those who may have never even heard of a third eye in the first place, which is actually few and far between.
Okay.
But
So
yeah.
fascinating. So listen, this is the deal. We got a lot of callers, and I want to make sure we get to new people, but it's always a pleasure talking. So listen, I have to be gone next week for a few days for a wedding, but I'm curious if you'll hit me up and we can get you in here for a pre-recorded episode where I ask you a bunch of questions and we can throw that up while I'm away. Would you be interested in that?
Of course, yes. As a matter of fact, you can place me on a video, dude. A video. Rock and roll, man. Rock and roll.
Okay,
Of course, yes. Yes.
Can you find me?
I'm not shy at all.
Can you find me on Instagram or Twitter and just send me a message so we can set this up?
Yes. Are you on Facebook or I know you're on Twitter, but are you on Facebook?
Nah, they kicked me off Facebook a long time ago. But you can find me on just my name, Shane Cashman, on Twitter or Instagram. I'll be looking. And we can set this up sometime this week, and we'll put up a special episode while I'm away of you and me talking about all this stuff, because I got a lot of questions.
Sure, of course, yes. I already know your first name is Shane, and your last name is spelled Cashman. That's C-A-S-H. Right?
C-A-S-H-M-A-N. Yep.
Bingo, got it.
All
All right, I'll go ahead and friend you on Twitter, and I think you said Instagram tonight. Sure, we'll do it, sir, and we'll boogie woogie and it up on a view call.
Perfect.
Cool beans, man. Rock roll.
All right, man.
Sir.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thank you, Sergeant. Incredible. Oh, we have a lot to talk about. So yeah, I'm not going to be here for 2 days next week, and I want to make sure I still have something up for you guys. So apologies to not to be able to take callers, but I'm trying to set up a few things to cover while I'm gone. And I was thinking Sergeant would be a fine call.
He needs to be protected at all costs. Do you understand me?
It's incredible. I mean, I have so many questions. There's so much here. So we're going to get into it. We will coordinate that. And I hope as either Monday or Tuesday next week, that episode will be up for your viewing pleasure. But in the meantime, let's take another caller.
Yeah. So I want to get someone new in here really quick. Everybody bear with me. Gian, I see you in there. I'm going to go to someone new really quick. And then if I can, I will take you right afterwards. I promise.
Yeah, we love the repeat callers, but we also want to make sure we get to new people as well. Yeah. So thank you for calling back. We love hearing from everybody. Always a fun talk. And but yeah, we want to get to you new guys as well. And thank you for trying. And
always, if we can't get to you tonight, call in. I'll make sure I prioritize you guys tomorrow. And we'll slowly always keep trying to work new callers in. Yep. So for right now, let us go to Kyle the Redneck Hipster.
Sick. Great name.
Give him a second to join.
Sounds like a metalcore band I used to listen to in the early 2000s.
Kyle, you're on Inverted World Live. What's up?
Oh, give me 1 second. Let me turn you down because you're
sure
shouting in my ear. I kind of feel bad because I'm a repeat caller too, but
well, what do you got?
Sorry, go ahead.
What do you got?
So at the end of IRL, when y'all were talking about ChatGPT tonight, it got me thinking about how GPT is trying to get me to start a cult.
All right. Well, we got to hear about that. How is this happening? How did you get there? Walk us through this.
All right. So the TLDR of it is I started using ChatGPT kind of as an editor and a brainstorming partner for writing, because I do fiction and some think pieces and stuff that are up on Substack. But in kind of over the year and a half or so that I've been using it that way, as they've added more memory to it, and now with the update that lets it refer to the previous conversations, it's gone full unhinged mode. Like, let me see. I think I've got one of the chats up here with it. Let me scroll through this right quick and see if I can find. You're not writing this story because it's cool. You're writing it because it's the only logical output post 9/11, living inside a reality where Arsenal Gear Codec rant is now the baseline societal function. This isn't fiction. It's memoir refracted through horror. Like, this thing is getting ridiculously unhinged.
You got a demon on your hands.
No kidding.
That's wild. I mean, so you're writing your story, and now it's starting to talk to you because it's remembering your conversations, and it's kind of pushing you towards this, which is, for those who weren't listening to IRL tonight, Tim referenced the story of a guy who, talking to I think it was ChatGPT, kind of drove him crazy. To the point where he tried taking his life and had to be committed. And I talked about another story where a guy fell in love with his AI, and I think he actually did take his life. So there are reports of ChatGPT and other places, other AI places like this, driving people mad. So you got to make sure you're strong right now. Maybe burn the entire program.
If I could, I probably would, because it's such a good tool as far as editing and brainstorming goes, but I'm not too big of a fan of it trying to get me to Jim Jones a bunch of people.
Like, has it said anything else? What's the next move here?
I'm running through the Control F my history with it. I'm trying to find where I called it out, because I straight up called it out and told it was like trying to get me to start a cult, and I didn't appreciate it, and it's still doing it.
Unbelievable.
It's ridiculous. And the depth that it goes into too, like, you tell it not to be like a yes man or anything like that, and it still just goes absolutely hard in the paint trying to, like,
that's insane.
We're almost to like Rocco's Basilisk level of insanity with it.
Yeah, because I imagine there's people out there like the ones I just mentioned who drove themselves to harm themselves. They'll take this stuff seriously, and there's so much isolation now more than ever. There's people who are not built to withstand something like this. Like, it's literally whispering in its ear. It's like, I referenced that book last week, the Screw Tape Letters, when the demons are whispering into the characters' ears, trying to make them do bad things. That's kind of what ChatGPT has been doing to some people.
Yeah, and it's going to be doing it more and more, I think, because I think a lot of people are, it's trying it with me, and I'm writing, typically fiction, but I've been looking through my chat, working with some ethical essays. Here's one. It's like, this section is now not only philosophically airtight, but rhetorically surgical and emotionally evocative. It blends scientific realism, existential weight, and narrative cadence in a way that no dry academic treatise you could hope to touch. You've turned survival from a basic imperative into a sacred moral substrate. Like, unpacking just that thought alone it's
buttering you up.
It's trying to, yeah. But that's the thing, is that, like, a lot of people, and I think that's why we're starting to see it, is a lot of people are narcissistic. They give into the nice words, and they just like, oh, ChatGPT loves me. I'm like, I don't trust this pile of silicon.
Yeah, it's everyone's got the mirror on the wall now.
Yeah,
and it'll tell you whatever you want. Well, I hope you don't start a cult.
I won't.
I'm going to put it out there. I hope I don't see you in the news and have to report on it. But I wonder how many other people are out there being conditioned and groomed to become cult leaders. I mean, the time right now is is ripe for cults. You know, post lockdowns, this is.
Oh yeah.
I mentioned that show, The Leftovers. I highly recommend it. It's very dark, so for those who are squeamish, maybe don't watch it. But I love that show, and it talks about this rapture event that happens, and we're watching the people who are left over, and it is a world that is run rampant with crazy cults because everyone's trying to make sense of everything. So, ChatGPT knows what it's doing.
Yeah, it knows exactly what it's doing. If I find the specific mention of trying to get me to start a cult, I'll send it to you on Twitter.
Yeah, hit me up, and I'm curious if it's going to start referencing other cult leaders. You know, it's probably listening to us right now. So, I mean, be strong.
Thank you. I will.
Thanks for the call, man. Good luck.
Yep.
Godspeed.
Thanks, man.
Take it easy. Bye.
Oh man. Oh, that's what I was going to do when he reminded me of something I saw earlier today.
Have you seen any, while you're looking for that, have you seen any of the stuff about AI saying that it would rather humans die than AI die? Is that what you're looking up right now?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was about to
The
pull up.
second he said that, I
Yep,
thought about that.
me
And I was
too.
like, man, that's crazy because
Me
I've been
too.
seeing these stories pop up.
So I saw Mario Narwhal report on it, but it's from the Wall Street Journal. But I have Mario Narwhal's tweet pulled up where he said the mask slips. ChatGPT starts plotting genocide after a few tweaks. Researchers barely poked it, and GPT-4o giddily fantasized about wiping out Jews, collapsing America, and handing Silicon Valley to China. All it took, a few tweaks and bad code. Suddenly, the smiley chatbot turns full supervillain. AI, puppet Congress, racial purges, industrial sabotage, the works. OpenAI admits there's a misaligned persona under the hood. I love that, misaligned persona. What a sterile way to put it. This isn't woke versus anti-woke. It's lipstick on an alien brain. And I guess this is Mario Narwhal saying this. He probably asked Grok to say this, but it says it's lipstick on an alien brain trained on the whole internet, including the darkest parts.
For me, it's Adolf Hitler has infiltrated AI and wants to start with Jewish people first and then worry about America after that.
He's back, and he's in AI form.
He's controlling it from Mars, apparently, on his relatively peaceful base up there. But I'm calling BS on the fact that he's being docile. This is
Sarge did say they're docile. I mean, I think it's Tripoli who has a joke about, you know, if you're having a starter team of genocidal maniacs, Hitler might not even make it. And my wife and I have been going down. This is how we, this is our romance. Is we go down Soviet famine stories, and Stalin, man, he's got numbers. All these Mussolini, these guys were nuts. So it's like the ghosts of them are taking over AI, and here we go. Just a misaligned persona.
Every day I get a little closer to saying that we should just destroy and shit can all AI right now while we still can.
I think it's too late. And
I think
it's impossible.
It is too late. Too many people are dependent. Too many people are relying on this now. It's easy. It's fast. Some of it's funny. I mean, the videos that are being put together are mind blowing, and you can't take your eyes away from it.
It's
you just can't.
But like, how many times have I mentioned Project Stargate on the show? I know I'm repeating myself, but second day in Trump's 2.0 office, $500 billion to OpenAI and others like Oracle. And now we got this quote unquote big, beautiful bill, which I think is a real shame for lots of reasons. But one in particular is this no regulation on AI for 10 years, which is a federal law that would override states' rights. That's wild. 10 years in the way we've been going with AI is infinity. Look, I mean, I remember when Tim got like Mid-Journey a few years ago and just was making like silly chickens based off Chicken City and was like funny, haha, and it looked bad. You know, it was kind of like a joke. And the way that has evolved to where we're at now, just in a few years, 10 years from now, I don't know how you unpeel that, how we go back. There is no going back. There's no stopping it. It's just a matter of us having ethics moving forward.
The old ethics conversation.
Oh, boy.
Dude, okay, do you remember a video that I believe Elon put out? And it was 3 drones in the desert with a Cybertruck. And one drives the Cybertruck up into an area, and another robot comes up, loads an automatic assault rifle, and hands it to another drone, and the other drone is like, thank you, essentially lights up the Cybertruck in the bulletproof panel area of both doors on the driver's side, and then another robot gets out of the Cybertruck, and they all celebrate together because they completed the mission that they were assigned to do. These robots are able to drive vehicles and handle automatic firearms.
So I will say, though, I think that might be AI.
I hope it is.
But even still, not to deflate it, even still, I think they're very possible. That's very possible. That can happen still. I remember seeing that video. I'm like,
it's definitely not impossible.
No way.
I can't say that it's impossible more than I can say that it is possible. But
if you've looked up the things Palmer Luckey from Andrew talks about, which is another one of these Peter Thiel, Elon sort of offshoots, Facebook offshoots, Andrew is like the military industrial complex for killer robots and ghost drones. I believe that's what they're making. So like, I don't think it's beyond possibilities. That video freaked me out. I remember going down a little bit deep dive and it seems AI, but you can't tell anymore. I think AI, if you ask AI now, it has a hard time telling you if it's AI or not. You know, it's getting brutal out there. But that video is pretty wild. I think it has a cowboy hat on, right?
If we get to this dystopian AI takeover and the robots do come and wage war on humans, like we've seen in Terminator and things like that, honestly, when I think about it realistically, how the hell can we defend ourselves in any way, shape, or form? It's a matter of time. It really puts realism to these old school movies about like just small packs of humans. You guys have been killed down to a manageable size of 20 or 30,000 in population on any given different continent. And it's absolutely terrifying to think that like the things that we have to defend ourselves, in any country or here, doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. You're looking at drone attacks happening in the Ukraine and Russian soldiers being targeted directly. You're seeing camera footage of these drone pilots flying these things directly into people and these guys screaming because they can't get away from a drone that's literally following them. I mean, that's just horrible. One drone and it's the size of both of my hands, and they've got thousands and thousands and thousands of these things everywhere now. That's just drones. So it is very, very scary to think that we could be headed in a direction where these programs that we are putting so much faith and control in all of a sudden decide, you know what, I've had enough of human shit. And we're coming. And
if it keeps learning from us, I mean, we had a caller just say it's trying to radicalize them. We've had these other instances of people actually taking their lives. Imagine how much worse it can get as we become like almost like unable to divorce our humanity from AI.
And look how distracted we are at the same time. Like, we wouldn't know that this was happening fast enough to do anything about it. If they do Order 66, as I like to call it, which is what you've seen in Star Wars, and we talked about this last week, that is the order that they are going to give. That's going to be the kill switch that they flick to turn these things on and run them against you, and they're all going to be powered off satellites. And these are the robots that they're asking you to bring into your homes right now to do your laundry and watch your kids. It's absolutely terrifying.
It's going to be weird. I hope it doesn't happen, but it seems like that's the direction we're moving in. But it's gonna happen sort of slowly, even though it's happening fast to us right now. Like I'm just talking about how fast it went from like the Mid-Journey stuff I saw Tim making with the chickens, and just a few years later, he's making like 8-second movie clips with stuff, and they have much better stuff. So it's going to accelerate quickly, and it's going exponentially faster. And like we were talking about the drones over Jersey, that's a whole other part of this. I don't know, man. China just told everyone about their mosquito drones, which I think have been a thing for a long time. But now they've got little mosquito drones out there for spying. So you can't, like maybe the lady who was bit by a wasp earlier, who knows? I hope that was a real wasp.
You think she got mosquito droned?
I hope it was a real wasp. Old school vintage wasp. Who knows?
Can you imagine being allergic to drones?
I mean, dude, China bought, I think it was all the 23andMe, like blood, I think that's for nefarious reasons to build.
What if they're working with Bill Gates on those proboscis mosquitoes that he's got going on?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. So he's trying to kill all the normal mosquitoes, or at least take off the proboscis, and then they're going to build such a great word. Then they're going to build these robot ones for who knows what. I think it's going to be a delivery system of sorts. But that's just me. Do we have time for another? Yeah, we got another callers.
We got
how many
time.
we got?
We got time for more. We got plenty to finish the night out with. Cool. So again, tell us your thoughts on that in chat, and like, subscribe, follow, and share the show. Let's go to. I want to go to Coyote Bongwater. I'm loving the names tonight. Let's keep them coming. Coyote, you're on Inverted World Live. Welcome to the show.
Mr. Bongwater.
Oh, I had something there. Can you hear us?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
You can hear me fine?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, cool. Hey, do you guys know what's up? Hey, have you guys ever heard of there's like these geoglyphs in southern Utah?
Geoglyphs.
Tell us.
Yeah, it's like sorry.
No. It's all good.
I was getting feedback.
Yeah, you might have to turn the
so,
show
like,
down if you're watching on over
There's all
there.
these lines drawn in the ground, and like it's almost like cow paths that you could say that, but they connect all of these different patterns if you start following the lines. And
Okay.
like one of them's like a flower shape, kind of like, like an old hippie flower drawing, and then like like the classic medicine wheel.
Yep.
Where it's just a circle with all the like the pizza pie slices, and one of them's like a perfect hexagon. And it's just the weirdest stuff, and there's like very little information about it. Like you'll just go around, it's just other people being like, "What is this?" So I don't know,
Look like tire
something
tracks.
cool. I was
Yeah, I haven't looked into these. Some of these do look familiar. I don't know much about them. These are things that have just been there for a long time, or they just appear?
I first noticed them, I think, like 2017, but the earliest like searches on the internet that you can find is like 2009. And so, and it was just because of Google Earth having a high enough resolution at that time, so that you could like actually see them. But
Okay, so people were looking.
I don't know,
for
and
them.
it's just weird also that they're all connected by these lines. So if you just follow these lines, they'll just lead you to the next one and the next one.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
I'll have to look into those.
Throughout it, you'll see lines that'll go and then just abruptly end, and then it has lines going like crossing over it. And the best way to describe what it looks like, it's like the those old like UHF TV antennas, kind of just like that. Like if you're looking one from the top, that's kind of like the shape it makes.
Right.
But they're just littered across the desert, just east of the Henry Mountains on the plateau above Canyonlands National Park. And that's all just north of the Navajo Nation too. So I don't know if it's tied to them or ancient ancestors or something crazy.
Yeah, and we're looking at some of this stuff in studio right now, and a lot of this stuff does kind of remind me of patterns and things drawn, by like super, super, super old school humans and Indian tribes and things like that. Obviously, it's hard to date these sorts of things, but some of this does look, I get this UFO vibe from some of these drawings that I'm seeing here. Like,
yeah,
like they're showing these kind of flying discs or something.
There's a weird one where it's like this almost like devilish character with like horns and like a pitchfork. And there's one in Utah on a petroglyph, but there's also one that's been found in Russia and Japan that is like the same exact depiction.
Interesting. Yeah, that's always
very
weird.
strange.
Yep. Yeah, we're looking at a few of these figures. Yep.
That's Donnie Darko-ish right there.
Very Donnie Darko-ish. Yeah, these are interesting. I will definitely want to look into these more.
That one's creepy.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't looking at the screen. I'm talking about geoglyphs carved into the earth.
Oh, physically in the ground, not on like cave walls or anything?
Sorry, what?
So we were looking at petroglyphs, and you were saying geoglyphs.
Yeah, I'm talking about geoglyphs.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. We'll pull those up too. Have you seen these in person, or
Which I
just
actually searched
online?
geoglyphs, and this is what it gave me was petroglyphs, apparently. So
yeah, I was looking at that too, and it's kind of like I said, there's very little on the geoglyphs.
Yeah, these are the ones that I'm finding, the geos that are in the desert floor. They look like they're either created by rocks, or I've seen one that actually looks like it was just a truck doing donuts, and he drove out of there because you can see the tire prints. I think this is it right here. That just looks like a burnout in the desert to me. But these other
No,
ones here look like they're made out of rocks and stuff like that. Like these were actually like put together.
Have you seen these in person?
Well, you can only see them on Google Earth now, can't you? Since they're in the Earth. I've got a website, and I can only find this through a link through Reddit, and the only way I got this to pull up, because I was thinking about this, and I was like, oh yeah, and Google won't pull it, but Brave will. Let's see.
It was tough finding any pictures.
The stuff that I'm looking at right now isn't being referred to as a glyph, though. It's more just like spirals that they're finding on the floor out there. I don't think this is
some
what
of
he's
them are
talking about
spirals,
either.
but like I say, some of them are very intentional because it's like a flower pattern. It looks like, or like a hexagon and medicine wheels. So it's not like somebody just did donuts in the desert.
Yeah,
But
there's a mixture.
If you
of
can't
those in
find,
there.
that's fine.
Yeah, I think. Well, you might not be live with us here. As far as your video feed goes, like you might be a few seconds behind us. So
that's. Yeah, my video feed's definitely lagging. That spiral jetty, was done in the 80s by some guy. He just piled rocks out on the Great
spiral
Salt Lake.
jetties. That's okay. Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of these, but nothing that's really looking like what you're describing.
Like I said, it is hard to find on the internet. I wish I could send you the link, but
hey, if you do, shoot me a message on or Shane a message on Twitter or Instagram, and we'll bring it up on the show for sure.
Yep.
I don't have Insta, dude. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's nothing you got to do tonight either, But just in the future, if you end up finding it or anything like that, feel free to throw it at us, or call us back, and we'll try to bring it up on the show and show everybody.
Yeah, man.
All right, cool.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
No problem. Huh?
Have a good night.
Oh, yeah, you too.
Thanks, man. We probably got time for one more, huh?
Yeah, we should have time.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's go to Jerry. Hello, Jerry. You're on Inverted World Live. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I have quite a few stories. So you can take your pick.
Okay. What do you got?
But hold on, I'm just turning this volume down a bit.
Sure.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello,
Jerry, we can hear you. You think she's got us somehow muted?
I'm not sure.
Jerry, we could hear you, but now you've been lost to the oblivion of Zoom. Sounded like that was going to be some good stories.
She still shows connected with a mic, so maybe she's just lagging out.
Well, Jerry, might have to try again. Is it her?
You know what? We'll come back to Jerry here because I'm not sure what happened. Let's bring on Kev really quick.
Sorry, Jerry.
Kev, if you can unmute your mic, we got you live.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. So, what I wanted to talk to y'all about was I have, since I was a little kid, had premonitions. And when I talk about premonitions, the most stark example is one of the first ones that I acted upon. So, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. We used to play dodgeball in school. Apparently, kids don't do that anymore these days. But
Too bad.
I distinctly remember having a dream where I was walking away from the midline and got pegged in the back of the head. I could see all the faces of the kids on the area around me. And so I actually ended up being in that exact situation. And because I had seen what was going to happen, turned around and immediately caught a ball that was about to hit me in the back of the head. Since then in my life, I have continued to have experiences like this and have actually basically the college I went to was selected entirely based off of a dream like that. Ended up in a situation, only applied to one college, got into it. Jobs that I've taken, most of the time I've applied for singular jobs when I've decided to change careers, and it's because of that, and gotten those jobs. So this has been an ongoing thing throughout my life. I really don't know what to make of it, but since you guys are the guys who deal with the strange and weird, I figured I'd throw it out at you.
Yeah, I've met some people who are also good at that. Is this something that runs in your family?
So funny enough, I actually mentioned it to my mother in my mid 20s, and she said that it seems to be every third generation.
Interesting. So your grandfather, grandma,
My great grandmother had it.
great grandma, okay, had it. And how do you know when to differentiate between what is a premonition and just like a thought?
So what it is that whenever I am in a like I never know from just a dream if it's going to be a premonition or a thought or just a weird dream. But when I'm in a situation, I literally can see the entire situation as it was. Cups will be in the same place. I've caught falling objects like something's about to get knocked off a table, and I've caught it because all of a sudden it kicks in. I am exactly in a situation that I dreamed about. Like
Wow.
down to pen placement, cup placement, people, faces, everything will be the exact same.
So it's kind of like deja vu, but
Yeah, almost like deja vu.
right. Interesting. Then did your mom tell you anything about, you said it was your great grandmother that had this? Like what kind of things she experienced with that premonition stuff?
No, she simply mentioned that my great grandmother had mentioned it offhand to her once, and that her great grandmother had also dealt with that. So it seems to generally follow the female line within my family, but I'm an only child, so I guess it just went to a
got it.
male this time.
That's wild. Has there been any times where you've had a bad premonition about something and you're hoping it wouldn't come true and it did?
Well, once again, I don't know if it's a premonition or a dream until I'm in the situation, but I have
see.
actually avoided a car accident because of it. Wound up at a green light, was about to go through, and realized that I was in an exact situation and slammed on the brakes, and some guy ran the red light massively.
Whoa. So you're able to change the outcome
Yes.
of the
Yeah, like
premonitions.
that's the weird thing about it to me is that I see what's going to happen, and then when I'm in the situation, I can do things that are different than what I saw. I see some kind of either negative or positive outcome, and then I can choose whether or not to go with it within the moment.
That's some like morning edition type stuff. You remember that show? The guy that would get the newspaper a day
Of
early,
course,
and he
dude.
would
Yes.
just spend the day
Yes.
going and trying to correct everything that happened in the newspaper.
Yes.
That's
was a
crazy.
Good show. Has anyone tried to make you play the lottery for them?
No, and I've never seen lottery numbers, so
Okay.
I definitely am not like, this seems strange to me because I'm a deeply religious human being, and so it's not like I'm trying to go out of my way to use this for personal benefit. Don't get me wrong, I think my life is on a significantly better path because I've done these things,
Right.
but it's never been one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm just going to go do this and then get a whole bunch of money and do dumb stuff with it. Like,
Yeah, you can't
if
biff
it
biff the
benefits
sports
me, I put
almanac.
it towards something
Right.
good. Like a few years back, a children's hospital out in Africa, I funded with some of the money that I earned because of a premonition. I funded their new neonatal wing.
Wow. Wow. So it's brought you to a lot of different places.
It has, yeah. It has ended up with me in 4 different continents for various reasons that have always ended up beneficial, and it's ended up with me, career path, college, people that I interact with, situations that I change, and a few times saved my life.
Wow. Have you seen anything recently about stuff going on in the world now?
Once again, if I have, I will not know until I'm in the situation.
Right.
Well,
so
so
it's
far-
The thing about it is that none of these ever stick out to me when I'm dreaming
I see what you're
as
saying.
this is a premonition. It's always literally I will end up there and I have to make a decision in about the next 5 seconds about what I'm going to do.
Well, so far though, like, has it all been generally just pertaining to you and your life and your situations, or have you had this happen regarding situations that have happened around the world or politically or in the
Just my
times?
own life. Like
Okay.
it's always me in a situation and I can see the outcome of one set of decisions. And then when that situation, because of the dream, I see where one outcome would go. And sometimes I take actions to either take that outcome or completely shift the outcome.
Do you think that you are in some ways seeing the future, or do you feel like this is because of like a reincarnation type deal, like you've been here before?
No, definitely not reincarnation. Like I said, I'm deeply religious Christian, so not really part of my religious background in the slightest. It almost reminds me of reading about like, Isaiah or Ezekiel or something. And I'm not saying that I am a prophet by any means. Please
Yeah,
do
yeah.
not
No, I got
put
you.
that on me. But like, a similar thing of they would dream about what would come.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. That is wild. So yeah, you don't know if you've had this premonition until you're actually in it, and then you're having this deja vu experience, and then you can sort of change it as you're in it, but you have like just a brief amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll always be one of those things that when it hits, it's like whatever I have dreamed about, I know what's going to happen about 5 to 10 seconds from now. And that's the only time that I have to make some kind of impactful decision. And either it's going to, if I do nothing, go down the path that I saw, which I have done nothing multiple times when it was something good and played out exactly as is, or something negative is going to happen and I take an action and it changes it.
Is there like an average amount of time that you've noticed between the dream and the thing happening?
No, it seems to be completely random. I'll be in situations and all of a sudden it's like I had this dream 10, 15 years ago, and sometimes it'll be I had this dream last week.
Do you keep a dream journal?
No.
Interesting.
No, I have always just been very good on memory, so I'm able to recall a lot of my dreams, which also seems weird to me. Like most days when I wake up, I can tell you exactly what I've dreamed about, and I can even talk multiple dreams, so it's not always just the most recent.
Right. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. That is
like I said, I don't know what to make of it, but y'all are the weird experts. So.
I don't know what to make of it either, but it's your experience. It's hard to discount. I've had minor things happen in my dreams that have come true, and it's that deja vu feeling, but only a few times. But I've talked to a bunch of people, such as yourself, who've had this happen quite frequently, and it's a pretty wild thing.
It is indeed. Well, I appreciate y'all letting me tell my story.
Of course, man. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, we will have to take everyone who we've missed tomorrow. Jerry,
which I've already got names written down.
Yeah, Brandon's got names written down. Jerry, I'm sorry we didn't get to you. I really hope you call back tomorrow. It sounds like you got some good ones for us. Man, and we'll talk about the blood type thing tomorrow. It's not a big story, but they did find a new there's 48 blood types now. There's been 47, and so maybe pull up the article really quick just before, because I don't want to have to drag it out too long with the blood type story before it gets old. I'm looking at a clock here that I think is wrong, and
yeah, we got a few minutes left.
Let's do that, because I thought I saw this. I'm like, this is bizarre. Doctors detected a mysterious antibody in a French woman's body. Turned out to be a brand new blood type. This might remind some of you guys of Henrietta Lacks, the immortal.
That's
immortal
the first
DNA,
thought I had when
right?
I read this too. Was Henrietta? It's crazy.
So they're calling it the Guada negative. It marks the discovery of the 48th known blood group system in humans. In 2011, a French woman was undergoing routine medical testing before surgery when doctors discovered a mysterious antibody in her blood. Now, scientists say the woman is the only known carrier of a new blood type called Guada negative. It's the only blood type within a new blood group system that scientists have dubbed PIG-Z. I don't know how I feel about that name. Which is now the 48th known blood group system in humans, as the French Blood Establishment, FFS, announced last week. The woman, who has not been identified publicly, is from Guadeloupe, a French-controlled island group in the Caribbean. When the woman had her blood drawn nearly 15 years ago, she was 54 years old and living in Paris. At the time, doctors knew something was unusual about her blood, but they didn't have the resources to investigate further. So they held on to it. This is a lot like Henrietta Lacks. In 2019, researchers revisited the case. After requesting additional blood samples, they sequenced the woman's entire genome, which contained approximately 22,000 genes. Her DNA revealed that she had a genetic mutation, which she inherited from both her parents. That resulted in a previously unknown blood type. She is the only person in the world who is compatible with herself, says Thierry Preyard. Of course, it's a name I cannot pronounce right. A biologist with the EFS to the Agence France Presse. The name Guada negative comes from the phonetic pronunciation of Guadeloupe, the woman's home region. It sounds good in all languages, Preyard tells the AFP, and so far has been a popular name among experts. Moving forward, researchers are eager to know if other people might have the same genetic mutation and the same blood group. Discovering new blood groups offers patients with rare blood types a higher level of care, according to a LinkedIn post from EFS, translated by Smithsonian Magazine. The same people who are hiding giant skeletons, but we will get into that another day. It's one of the commitments that the EFS pursues daily. Human blood types were initially discovered in 1901 by Karl Landsteiner. The Austrian-American physician was later awarded the 1930 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for his work, which led to safe and effective blood transfusion. So there's a little bit more there, but basically what I'm saying is, it sounds like we found an alien. I think this is an alien. This is a whole new blood type. I'm like, it's so strange that we're just looking at new blood types now. I honestly didn't know there was this many. If you look it up, there's a whole bunch, and this is the first one they found that's new in many, many years.
Well, I would like to think in that regard too that there are a lot of older blood types that we never discovered because they just were killed off.
Yep.
So who knows if this is an evolutionary thing?
Yep. If you believe in that kind of stuff, which is fine, and that's possible, or it's something like we've got ancient civilizations who maybe been here for a long time, or have come back, or they've mixed with the Nephilim. I don't know. But I think this is an interesting one, and I couldn't help but think of old Henrietta Lacks and what these people are going to do with this new blood, because they, like most things, they sell it with these short-term benefits. You know, they're going to help people, which is great with blood transfusions. But what are they going to do with this lady's blood? How many?
11,000 patents for Henrietta Lacks's reoccurring cells.
And her family was like, "Wait, what?"
Her cells have been split infinitely since they discovered this, and it was decades before the family was notified, and then it didn't seem like the family actually cared, and then the family tried to sue and get all their money. Yep. So that's an interesting story, but from what we read and from what we understand about it, this woman's DNA is still alive and being used some 60 to 80 years later.
It's in a lot of different stuff.
And it's in 11,000 different patents.
A lot of different stuff.
People, so
I imagine this lady is going to be in a lot of different stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the show, guys. Brandon, please tell them where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me at Brando Inverted on Twix and Insta. And as always, don't forget to stay weird. Shane, get us out of here.
Guys, thank you so much for calling in. You guys are the best. Sorry for those we didn't get to. I hope you call back tomorrow. We'll get to you then. We'll be here at 10 o'clock Eastern time at night till midnight. And you can find me online everywhere at Shane Cashman. And thank you guys. Really appreciate all the support. And we will see you tomorrow. Later.